Hi everyone, how you doing? Today is the 2nd of February, 2024. God, sorry, my mind's a bit all over the place. I've been working nights for the last 8 days, and I've been doing pulling some extra shifts in to get a bit of extra money, which is a novel idea considering how I used to think I could get money years ago. Thankfully today I realised the only way I'm going to get extra money is if I graft for it rather than gamble. Um, Today I just wanted to touch on a subject that many people will find a bit tough. Many people will turn off. Um, but if you're still watching at the end, well done for sticking through it, because when we're talking about spiritual matters, um, it's not it's it, it's not a subject that we talk about a lot, really, and it's certainly not a subject that I talk about a lot with people. Um, but I think when we're in that position where we're gambling and our life has basically gone down the toilet. Um, we've tried everything we can possibly conceive to stop gambling. We've done therapy. We've tried everything that we can think of um, to stop, to remain stopped. I'm not talking about stopping for one day or a few days or a week or whatever. I'm on about staying stopped, because the thing is, with gambling, we know when we start that all hell breaks loose. So we know when we like I keep saying, we know when we put the first bet on that all hell breaks loose. But we can't stop ourselves putting the first bet on. So all hell is always going to break loose when we put that first bet on, and we can't stop ourselves from doing it. So that's the meaning of addiction, and this is why, for me, I turned to a higher power. I started seeking out um, a power greater than myself, because I knew that I had no power to do this on my own. Um, I tried with friends and family. I tried all sorts, like most of you will have. I tried all sorts, but it just didn't work. And you know, I've had experiences throughout my life that have been very, very profound, um, that I can't really explain. Um, but I understand that there has been something looking out for me, um, taking care of me without me even knowing it. Because realistically, looking back, I'm surprised I'm still alive. The depths that gambling addiction, the depths of despair and depression gambling addiction took me, um, it is quite a statement for me, still to be sitting here talking with you today. I've mentioned previously that I was found on top of a multi-story car park, about to throw myself to my death at one point. That's the depths that my gambling took me. And on that day, believe you me, I knew I was going to die that day. I was determined to put an end to the misery that I was going through. And I got up there, and in the car, in the top of the car park, and in the car, thank God, there was two undercover police sat in the car park, on top of the car park, and they came over and was like, "What you doing? What you doing? Are you okay?" And that was enough for me to switch and realise what I was doing, and I just broke down and I cried like a baby. I didn't, yeah, I didn't know what was going on. But you would think that experience, as bad as that was, would be enough to stop me from going back to gambling. It didn't. A couple of days later, I was back gambling again. So for me, in that instance, you can say it's coincidence or whatever. I tend to think I prefer to think that it was a bit of intervention, saying, "Oi, dragging me back. You're not ready to check out yet, mate." For me, you know, that's it was. And I've had several other experiences of a similar thing where there's been an intervention take place. I mean, for me, when we're gambling, we have no problem in praying, "Please give me a big win." Like I mentioned in the previous video, please just let me get the money back that I've put in. Please, I believe in God. I believe in God, and all this nonsense. You know, but it for me, it wasn't till I got to the point where I needed to believe in God that it changed. You know, I needed and I wanted to believe. Now, when I'm talking about God, I'm not talking about the theological definition of God. I'm not my belief system isn't based upon any theological definition of what God is or anything. I don't really know what it is, but I do know that there's something been working in my life for a long time, even though I wasn't aware of it. I am aware of it now, but I mean, 15 years ago, all I possessed in this life, I'd lost everything, and all I possessed was a black bin bag with a few clothes. That was it. That's all I had left. I'd lost everything, and today my life is completely transformed. I mean, I've got a wonderful wife, beautiful wife. I've got own my home. I've got a great job. I've got friends. I've got hopes. I've got dreams. I've got aspirations. You know, all of these things that today I take for granted. I take it for granted. You know, and I really shouldn't. I shouldn't take all this for granted because, you know, these are. I should see them as gifts, and I should really recognise them as such. But I am grateful. I am grateful for everything that I have today. Now the thing is, I mean, what I try and do, I'm not an authority on spiritual matters or anything like that. And do I mess up? Absolutely, I mess up. But I try my best. You know, I try my best. When I mess up, you know, I'll say to myself, well, I'll try not to do it again. You know, and ask for some support. You know, the best thing that I did was recognise that in and of myself I had no power to stop myself from going back to gambling permanently. Because I had no power to stop myself permanently, it meant that at some point I would go back to gambling. And as we've discussed many times in these videos, once we as gambling addicts place that first bet, it's game over. And you know as well as I know the truth in that. So if I can't stop myself permanently from gambling, then at some point I am going to gamble again. And if I gamble again, I am going to lose all my money again. And if I do that, I'm going to do it again and again and it's just going to keep on happening. It's just going to keep on happening. So some form of intervention's got to come from somewhere, because I don't have the power to be able to stop that from happening. So this is where I became willing to believe that a power greater than myself could restore me to sanity around the question of gambling. Now the thing is, with gambling, we can think, oh well, restored to sanity, I'm not insane. Well, if you look at your gambling, clearly you are. If you're a gambling addict, like the type that I was, so you have all these consequences of your gambling, all these horrific consequences, all this misery, all this trauma that's been created by gambling, but you're still doing it. What are you other than insane for keeping doing it when it doesn't bring you joy, it doesn't bring you happiness? All it does, it brings you absolute misery and heartache, but you can't stop doing it. So that's what I mean by insane, insanity. Continuing to repeat that cycle and not seeking a way to break out of it. So if we recognize we don't have power, where are we going to get some power from to be able to act as the barrier when our mind twists and convinces us that it's okay to put the first bet on? Because that's what happens. We become convinced, absolutely convinced, that it's okay to put the first bet on. Our mind is very reassuring. Allows us to feel it allows us to feel reassured that putting the first bet on won't cause any harm or anything like that, because it won't allow our mind won't. It's weird what's going on. It's like our mind won't allow us to remember all of the pain and misery and suffering that we've been through. And at the same time, it's reassuring us that everything will be fine. Don't worry. Don't worry. We'll just bet £20. £20 will be all right. You can walk away after £20, even though you've never done that ever. Your mind has convinced you that you will be able to. So you put the first bet on. Within a couple of seconds, you've blown 20 quid. And then what happens? I'll deposit £100. You blow the £100 and realise that you've lost 120. Okay, that's fine. But if I'm due a win, so what I'll do, I'll put another 100 in and see what happens. And you'll put the 100 in and you'll win, say, 500. And you're like, yes, I did it. So what happens next? Well, if I just keep going a little bit more, I might be able to double it. And your mind is very reassuring that you're on a winning streak. Don't worry, just keep going. So this is what I'm saying. I mean, we need protecting from our own mind. We can't rely upon our own thinking, and that can be quite a humbling thing to admit. And a lot of you watching this now might be thinking that I'm talking out my hat. But what we're doing when we're seeking a higher power, it's like we're becoming willing to allow a higher power into our life, to work within our life, and in doing so, allowing that higher power to transform our lives in a way that will bring about the life that we want and that we deserve. And my experience is that this does work. And it's been the experience of many people who have done it, who have done the same thing. Getting up in the morning and doing a bit of meditation or whatever, trying to quieten the mind in order to allow that higher power in. Asking each morning, please guide my thoughts and direct my actions. Please enable me to recognize my faults and help me to get through the day without harming anybody. So these are the things that we can do, because when we're gambling and we're locked into gambling addiction, it's the last thing we're thinking about is anybody else. It's like we're consumed with ourselves. It's like we're self-centered to the core. And that's not our fault. It's just what gambling does. It makes us that way. So what we part of overcoming all that and unraveling all that is learning to recognize that other people matter. Learning to recognize that other people's feelings matter. Learning to recognize that caring for others is a good thing. These are just pretty basic things. But it's like we have to relearn all this stuff again, and it's like recognizing that these things can come about through the guidance of a higher power. So it's like, how do you start off trying to develop a relationship with a higher power? Basically, get on your knees and just say, please help me. Please help me. I recognize that my life is a mess and I don't want to live like this anymore. Please help me to overcome these difficulties. Please guide my thoughts, direct my actions, and walk with me. Walk with me. Enable me to become the person that I was always meant to be. Please allow me to experience you working through me and in me in my life. Please allow me to let go of selfishness, let go of self-centeredness. Please allow me to let go of my inconsiderate nature towards others. Allow me to be more considerate. Please help me to recognize I can't always have my own way. These are some of the things. These are some of the things that we can do. And the purpose, again going back, the purpose of the whole 12-step program is to enable you to connect with a higher power that will do for you what you can't do for yourself. And once you've gone through the steps and you've experienced, because the thing is, it's like we're not talking about when I'm talking about faith, I'm not just talking about blind faith. I'm talking about faith based on experience, which is solid. It's rocks. It's not like blind faith. It's not the faith that I'm talking about here is based upon your experience that you're having, the spiritual awakening that we have when we work through the steps, when we open up to others, when we share with others, when we have fears, but we walk through that fear on the other side, and we can stand free from fear, having gone through it, having faced things that we have difficulty with, and come out the other side. Faith is developed through that, reliance, if you like, relying upon a higher power to get us through situations. You know, not by please just get me out of the shit or please just get me a win. It's like asking a higher power to come into your life and you walking hand in hand with that higher power through life's trials and tribulations and coming out the other end stronger in your own faith, in your own higher power. Right. I don't know whether anybody has enjoyed this video, but it's a very contentious issue. I recognise that, you know, but I'm gonna leave it here. And you know, if you've tried everything, if you've tried everything else, what have you got to lose? You know, if you've tried everything else and it's all failed, what have you got to lose? Anyway, peace. Take care.